Joining us now is former IDF spokesman and senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, retired Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus. Colonel, always great to have you on the show. What do you make of this? It almost sounded like it was spitballing, to be honest, but I think we know that President Trump doesn't spitball. He was just sitting there saying every single Palestinian should be resettled someplace else, not in Gaza, and dispersed throughout the Middle East. Do you think that's a realistic plan?
Hello, Elizabeth. Very, very interesting. I think talk about moving historical goalposts. You know, what the president just said is something, you know, that only extreme parts of the Israeli political landscape have been dreaming about, and now it is being said and repeated by the most powerful man in the world and the leader of the United States of America. Definitely room for pause and for the people in the region, for Egypt and Palestinians and Jordanians and others to kind of pause and understand that the situation now is fundamentally different. And I have one point to say, you know, in Israel, after October 7, the immediate aftermath was that many Israelis felt that this was an attack on Israel, not just by Hamas and not just by their special forces, but this was really an attack on Israel by Palestinians who, and I'll remind everybody in terms of numbers, on October 7, more than 2,000 ordinary Palestinian civilians came across into Israel and performed some of the most horrible atrocities against Israelis, and a lot of Israelis paid attention to that. It wasn't only Hamas, and since then, you know, Palestinian civilians have been housing Israeli hostages. They have been aiding Hamas in the fighting. I'm speaking about this because I'm not saying that all of the Palestinians are combatants, but I'm saying that all of the Palestinians kind of being bundled into this situation, from the perspective of what we're hearing from President Trump, there is some logic to it because there really is ongoing problems in Gaza, and the level of radicalization perhaps can only be ruptured by moving people out of there.
It's interesting you bring that up, Colonel, because I'm thinking just of the hostages that were just released a couple of weeks ago, and you saw these women surrounded by these mobs of people. Yes, all Palestinians are not members of Hamas, but Hamas still enjoys great support among Palestinian civilians. You only need to look at the video. If we have it, we can put it up. The video and the pictures of these women being crushed, in essence, by this mob of people in Gaza as they were being escorted by the Red Crescent to waiting cars to be transported to Israel.
Yes, and I mean, if we go further, and if we, you know, maybe our viewers here, they don't usually listen to Arabic language media, but I can, as someone who does, you know, if you listen to what Palestinians, ordinary Palestinians, what they say on Al Jazeera, what you hear on social media, you hear a lot of tremendous grassroots support for Hamas, for their actions against Israel, and for the political future outlook on the conflict. Palestinians are saying our way forward is jihad, and we want to fight the Jews until we win. Maybe that is something that, you know, has bubbled up all the way up to the president, and maybe the president, as someone who takes a disruptive approach to governance, we see it in domestic politics and we see it in international politics. Maybe the president is saying, well, I'm going to go straight for a long-term solution to the problem here. We've had about 50 years, 55 years of fighting between Israel and Gaza, so many years of instability and suffering. I want to cut that chain of violence and suffering, and the way that I am going to do it is by moving people out. Now, in the post-Second World War order, that is unheard of, right? Up until the Second World War, you could do that. If two ethnic groups or two countries fought, then the winning side would take terrain and banish the people from the losing side. That's how humans fought for millennia. We stopped that after the Second World War, and what, in a sense, we're seeing now is a fresh approach on warfare, which perhaps is more suitable for the new environment where state actors are fighting against non-state actors, and where, Israel as a country has been faced with these ongoing threats that they seem to never end. And maybe this will bring an end to it.
Colonel, you talk about the fact that you're still hearing civilian support for Hamas inside Gaza. Why does President Trump think, why would anybody think that these Palestinians would willingly just say, okay, our fight for decades now is done. We're just going to leave Gaza and move to whichever country finally agrees to take us?
Yeah, I agree with you, Elizabeth. That is a very, very tall order. And I respect, the feelings and narrative and emotions of people who have a different perspective, even if it is a perspective that really is a challenge to me, and it calls on, Israel to be annihilated. I can understand the feelings of others, and I can understand that it would be extremely difficult to incentivize lots of people to move from an area that they call home. However, having said that, there is a point to the fact that, whatever professional assessment you will get, we're not talking about the Gaza Strip being livable from a human perspective, with basic services, with medical conditions, and just, providing the basics that people need to survive. That's not the case in Gaza. There are some areas that are almost okay, but the vast majority, it is not livable. And I think that in itself will be an incentive, but you're very right. The emotional part is a very big hurdle.
Yeah. The hurdle in convincing Palestinians to voluntarily leave not just the land that they claim is their own, but a cause they have been championing, often with bloodshed, for decades, and the hurdle of convincing other countries in the Middle East to take in these people that they have thus far refused to allow even a handful of them in. Big hurdles.
Maybe just one just comment about that. Maybe that is the price of launching a genocidal attack against a democracy. Maybe that is the price that a terrorist organization and the supporting population that from which this terror organization grew, maybe that is the historical price to be paid for the atrocities of October 7 and for Hamas saying openly, continuously, we will continue jihad until we defeat the Jews and push them out of Israel. That's what they're saying. And I think this is also part of the Trump's reasoning in understanding that, well, as long as they're there, we have a problem.
Colonel Jonathan Conricus, former IDF spokesman, here to lend some analysis. Thank you.